This is Anamika Pisharidi, signing up as host to welcome you all to the third session on the day on engineering. Before we move on to the session, let me introduce to you all our moderator for today's session, Mr. Sanjay Jaikumar, the founder and CEO of Ignitarium. Sir, over to you.
Thank you so much, Anamika. So we are assembled here today to have this panel discussion around the industry stream or the engineering stream as part of the Youth Career Connect 2020 conducted by the powered by what was that? Skillablers. Sorry about that. Okay, so the discussion today is bringing around people who are tenured in the industry. We have a very tenured professional from the institution. Then we have a young professional who brings fresh and young perspectives on the industry, and then most importantly, we have a student who is pursuing his engineering education. So it's a very interesting mix here. So what we are trying to discuss here is the impact of technology in the industry, and how and what we will try and brainstorm in terms of how and what we need to be doing to shape ourselves to be ready for the demands that is being thrown in by the industry. Like the base expertise that is being brought in here is quite an interesting mix. A lot of it is kind of heavily kind of leaning towards the mechanical industry, right? A mechanical engineering industry. I would touch upon digital transformation as something that is kind of transforming the way things are getting done today. This is kind of very similar to the revolution that digital transformation is causing to the industry. Is kind of very similar to what historically we have seen done by the steam engine or electricity generation or printing press. Each one of those changes had very impactful changes that were created to human life. The way digital transformation is going is much faster, and the impact is equally kind of significant. And one thing that we can see is each of these technologies are what are called general purpose technology, which essentially has this property of evolving and kind of potential and having the potential to branch out and influence every sector and every industry, essentially in terms of enhancing productivity and things like that. So the way we look at work, the way we look at how to get the best out of this is changing as well. Bottom line, people still hold the key in terms of how to kind of harness these technologies to get the best out of us, best out of us for the mankind. So with this, I will kind of move to my panelists here. So first and foremost, I would request Ashok, who's a tenured professional in the manufacturing industry, to share his perspectives on. He's got about 3.5 decades of experience. Please share your perspectives, Ashok, on like how you have seen the work atmosphere, or how you have seen the needs and necessities at the workplace changing from the perspective of competencies, skills, and so on.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me in this panel, and I would love to share some bit of experience that I've had during the past 3.5 decades in the engineering industry. It was quite a surprise getting into the engineering field as compared to my original plan of being in a banking industry. But from then, there has been no looking back. A couple of things which fascinates me is at any given time, I've rarely found institutions that are basically guiding the youngsters to actually learn hands-on. And I think we are very fortunate to have Mr. Christopher Raj in this panel. That from the time I think I've been in college, we've always heard that and seen, not just heard, always seen that is only NTTF who's been able to make people create things, whereas everyone else would just go through the theoretical aspect, and then finally when you get them on a job, it becomes very difficult. What I have found per se at Hightem from the time I've joined was, I used to practice something very typically, a very simple, easy approach. And my approach to any issue generally is looking at it in the most simplest possible way. I would, one is you're in a capital equipment making equipment, and then we have a Japanese tire. So it becomes a great challenge to understand these various parts being used. You have over something like 3,000-4,000 parts that goes into different equipments. So how do you actually learn them? So what I did was I used to go in every day to the store. So you always have raw materials coming in. Go in, look at every single material that comes in, every single component that comes in. You add it to your library on a daily basis. And at the end of the year, you actually become a master in understanding, like literally you function like a computer. It is as simple as that. But today I find that when we interview youngsters, we want to add on to the manpower. We find it a great challenge to actually identify someone with that kind of ability, where someone actually understands what he studied and is able to put it into perspective. An example, what I noticed is when you interview some of the engineers, I found many a times, I ask the most simplest question again. You come today for the interview from your house all the way up to us. What did you actually see when you came from your home? And just list about 20 different components or anything that's mechanical that you've actually come across. I find a lot of them tend to struggle with even listing maybe 2 or 3. But actually, if you look at anything around you, you actually got hundreds of them. So what I find is there is no connect between the realities in life with what is being studied and the ability to connect and then finally deliver when you're on the work front. Once that happens, I found I've got a couple of engineers who joined me, and we've been able to train them on that mode, and they simply start to excel. And then 3 years is a great time, and they transform into something phenomenally different. So what I personally find is it's very important for these institutions to, like probably NTTF, definitely one of the best in giving people hands-on kind of training, because if one has a practical training, then the chances of you being able to look at things and easily absorb into you is far, far higher. Theory can always be there parallelly, but the practical aspect comes in, makes life much easier. So this is one of my observation, and if this comes in with institution and industry working together, I'm sure we will have a lot of top-class engineers, because I always believe, like how I believe when I was young, that I'm too young and I'm just starting my life and I want to have the best in my life. So I guess every youngster today in India or anywhere in the world is looking forward to having a great life. And for that, unless we kind of integrate all this together, I'm sure you find a lot of them who are very confused with what's happening around and leaving them in the lurch. I think the gentleman is not there, the moderator.
Yeah, he just dropped out because of a few network issues.
Oh, okay.
I think
So
Ashok
I think
sir,
it's
you
very
can.
essential for actually all the engineering institutions to mandatorily have these youngsters to intern with companies so that they get hands-on experience. And the other thing I find is a lot of them, when you speak to them, they say they read and they update themselves. But I find that's not really happening in the real sense. It's all skimming information and never getting into detail. So one aspect I've learned since we are a Japanese company is that anything that you see the first time, you get into every single detail and understand it very clearly so that you are perfect in what you're trying to do. And that I think has gone a very long way.
Sir, if you don't mind, could I just counter to that? So, as you're saying, internships are very important, right?
Yeah.
But in this situation, none of the companies are really taking in students for internships.
I think, okay.
Is there any other way that, we can gain practical knowledge? And
see, in engineering industry, I would think hands-on is one of the areas where you really get to learn, because it's not like being in an IT where you can work from home. For example, I'm working in the office since the 4th of May when the lockdown is open. But what we've done is we have social distancing, all that maintained, people taking care, ensuring you have masks, you sanitize. We've got 2 factories, in fact, right now in Bangalore, and we've got plants all over India. All the plants are functioning. And let me assure you, the way the trend today is, our businesses have slowly started picking up. There's definitely been a positive growth. Yes, to get back to the normal, like what you've experienced pre-March, it will take you at least a year's time, or probably until end of next year. But it is definitely going to pick up gradually. So let me tell you, just 1 year for youngsters like you is not end of the world. You've got a long way to go. So don't worry about this short-term scenario, which many of them seem to panic. It's not end of life. You've got plenty of opportunity and time to make it. So we do manage to have the social distancing, and still we are manufacturing. We are getting ready with certain equipments for exports to the US. And we do jobbing on a daily basis. If I could take you out to the backyard or towards the plant side, you would find all of them are busy working. So it's just part of life. We will have to slowly get used to it. With care, definitely, care and following safety norms. Yeah, Ms. Sanjay.
Apologies for the technical glitch there. I had to reboot my system. Something happened. Thank you, Ashok. I missed portions that you mentioned, but you were essentially talking about the industry readiness part of it. The industry readiness of the youngsters who are joining in recent times, and perhaps the gap that you see there and things like that. That's where I kind of got cut off. So I would perhaps take from there and pass on to Christopher. Christopher, one of the things that education can bring in is in terms of understanding how the demands are evolving and how you shape the younger generation. One of the things that we have seen NTTF doing so well all these years, and Ashok touched upon that, is the industry readiness aspect, bringing the industry readiness to the youngsters who are coming out, graduating out of the college. From these perspectives, could you please share with the audience how you would like to deal these situations? You're on mute. You're on mute, Christopher.
Yeah, I'm sorry, very sorry. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and meeting all wonderful people, experienced people from various fields, and focused on one thing. That's gems of our future. They need to be polished if they have to release shine, So I think it's a very important factor that Skillablers have come up with, and I'm really glad to be part of that. Just to tell about myself, I started my career in NTTF Electronics Center and designing and manufacturing test equipment and SPMs. So that's where I started. And when Maruti, they started manufacturing cars, the alternator testing equipment for the alternator was designed by me. So that's where I started my career. And then of course, I went and worked for a company called Molex, which is a connector manufacturing company. And the thing to Vinay was asking this question, I just want to bring in there. I think the issue is not about internship. The issue is about hesitance to get into the shop floor and dirty yourself. So many companies are willing to give you that opportunity, but then we want to just move up the ladder from the day one. That's the problem I see. So my job was on the bench first, started dirtying my hands. From there, I moved up. I worked for 21 years, worked in the entire area, and finally I was heading the organization when I moved out of Molex. And I traveled all over the world, met many other manufacturing experts. And I also worked for an Indian company for 3 years as a CEO. Then finally, I was working as a managing director with a company called Prudara, which makes high-speed presses, stamping presses. So I was heading the Indian operations. And then I came to NTTF as a director since the last 2.5 years. And to sum it up, all this happened because I'm from NTTF. I'm a student of NTTF. I passed out in 1986. And I'm really glad and happy and proud to be back in NTTF, trying to create more youngsters like me, hopefully. Yeah. So coming to, and it's a good point that we all touched, and I think Ashok touched upon a very, very important fine point. In NTTF, and what I feel that everybody should do is, I think it starts like this, the training should start like this. It is actually gratitude, attitude, skills, and knowledge. It should go in that order. Whereas we go with the knowledge and skills is like very little, and attitude is not at all developed, and nobody is grateful for what they have. So this is the fundamental problem I see. And I want to just tell the youngsters who are listening, and for the institutes, what is required. See, when you are in the school and college, your merit is like this. You are defined as a person like behaves well in class, good child at home, good on extracurriculum, intelligent, street smart. All these are the definitions of you. But unfortunately, when you finish your graduation and the minute you step into the organization, you are looked at. You may have scored 100 out of 100 in maths or science, but is there a thinking factor in you? Can you administer yourself, right? Do you have an administration factor? Do you have the interpersonal factor? Do you have that leadership factor in you? Communication, are you self-motivated? These are the things people start looking at you right from the day one. So I feel that all the institutions should focus on giving them this last mile transformation, right? That's a very important piece. Only if they have this, then the gratitude attitude, the knowledge will enable them to really apply these things. Otherwise, they just start shying away. This is what my experience of, like Ashok shared, recruiting people, I've experienced it. By the time you bring them on to that level of speed, it's like 1 year, 2 years. And if they had a good mentor, they come up. If not, they are all depressed youngsters. So this is a very important part, I think, has to be focused. And coming back to the skills and technology side of it, I'm going to touch upon a little bit on the older technology and the skills that is required. For example, if you ask a designer to design a product, the student is start to make things on a 3D and on a CAD. They are very good. They can make model, this, that, and come up with beautiful rendering and all that. But then can you manufacture it? No. So I received many designs I've seen. So the dimensioning, tolerancing, making it work, click, unclick, this thing is not taught at all. So this is something that has to be taught. And this has to be experienced. And then definite exposure, like what Ashok said, into the shop floor, manufacturing challenges. When they see that the designers actually graduate much higher as designers. So these are the things that I have seen. I'm just giving a very short insight because I know that we have time, very limited time. Now coming to the future, right? I think if you take a manufacturing engineering organization, you will have all this marketing, you'll have after sales, you'll have maintenance, you'll have HR, finance, all these things will be there. R&D, product design, engineering, process design, industrial engineering, factory manufacturing, all these things will be there. But one thing that's going to happen is, because of all the technology disruption that's happening, many roles will be merged. So you cannot say that I know only this much. you may need to know a neighbor's job as well, right? So that role will expand. So this, I am seeing this happening. And the other thing is, now since with the Industry 4 and IoT, everything talking to each other, the human interference is being removed. So human manipulation is going to stop. And then the data is going to be absolute accurate data. So silos will be removed. So you cannot do this. Oh, I didn't know he did this. That cannot happen. So you need to be very sensible, right? So, but the good news is all this new technology will enhance the performance of the company itself, the organization, because end of the day, everybody is focused on only one thing: increasing the sales and increasing the bottom line and reducing the expenses. That will not change whatever technology comes, right? So to me, what a smart engineer should in the future, there's going to be huge amount of data. Can an engineer know, like somebody told us what an OEE is, and you can connect it back to the lousiest machine you have or the best machine you have, and you know what to fix. Can an engineer connect that? That's important for an engineer. And then can you, with all this data that you have, can you think of what's the dashboard that you should create to improve your factory performance, manufacturing and engineering problems, right? So all this is going to happen because you will have this AI, you'll have data which will definitely help in improving all this, but then you should be able to, end of the day, human is required there, and that's an engineer. Now, other skills that I see coming up very strongly is design thinking is required, problem solving is required, and I told you the use of large data, so you can create dashboards, work backwards to Paretos and solving problems. And the other thing is life skills. You need a lot of life skills, because earlier it was IQ, maybe SQ, right? It was only that, but today it is EQ, AQ, adverse coefficient, and then SQ and IQ. It comes in that order. So your emotional coefficient is important. So you need to improve your life skills, because you need to manage people. Machines will work, but still you have to manage people. So these are some of the things that I had. And the changing trend I want to tell you for engineers, other than the shop floor thing, the newer emerging technologies will create new positions. You will have CDOs, that is Chief Digital Officers. You will have digital manufacturing engineer. That guy is the one who's going to implement what the CDO's vision for the organization is going to be. There's going to be virtual reality and augmented reality system specialists. They are the ones who are going to give inputs to engineers to improve the design or the features, those kind of inputs. And work experience designers. An operator has to manage a 3D printing machine. So he has to define the process and then the work experience procedure. And then, of course, digital factory automation engineer. It's not just mechanical design of things moving linearly and assembling. You need to also connect with IoT and maybe Industry 4, because you want to connect with your supplier of raw material. So the whole thing has to be connected, So this is what I see is happening as a upcoming technology and era. And I'm sure that, as always, I see the younger generation and the youth are really, really strong guys, because they have a lot of things in them. It's just that we have to polish and unleash it. So this is what my input is.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Christopher. That was plenty of pertinent points. And you touched upon a very favorite point of mine that gives me an opportunity to go to the next one. I feel the youngsters in any generation, the youngsters really are the most potent ones who are tuned to change the world. Which I talked in the beginning about digital transformation, and you touched upon it quite a bit of how it is impacting jobs, the kind of new jobs that are coming and things like that. I think this the speed of thinking, right? The speed of thinking that the youngsters are kind of blessed with in today's life. They think digitally, almost they think digitally, right? Like on this, I would want to go to Vignesh, right? Vignesh is a student at NTU. Vignesh, can you kind of elaborate on like how you think as a youngster, how you think the skills are going to be, or the competencies or the capabilities are going to be for the future, and how in your environment you're kind of getting prepared for those kind of things. Also, please go back, if you could, to one key point that Christopher mentioned, right, about the gratitude attitude part of it. We like Ashok, myself, and Christopher. Ashok, myself are able to kind of relate very well to Christopher on that point. So, do you? I mean, your views on that, like on the ending, you can touch upon that, right? But first, you start from yours.
Okay. First and foremost, very good afternoon to everyone. I'm extremely humbled and honored to be part of this distinguished panel and to represent the voice of the youth. So yeah, I hope I can represent them well. And then, so whatever the future holds, I think problem solving skills and the fundamental knowledge of engineering is essential. So the problems that engineers solve rely on what we want and need as a society, right? So as our wants and need fluctuate, so will our problems and solutions. But the baseline, as Mr. Christopher said, is that we need to improve designs of existing solutions and find cheaper ways of producing them. You know? So as always, economic feasibility plays a big role in what fields majority of engineers end up in, right? So, but apart from economic factors, I think now more than ever, the future of engineering should focus on sustainability, security, and health and the general quality of life. Because I mean this with no disrespect to previous generations, but previously, engineers, because of their intense drive to succeed and produce solutions, and solutions are made without really taking into consideration the effects that it has on society and the environment. So I think now it is up to us, the youth, to reverse these effects and make the world a better place to live in. Yeah. So as a result, engineers with advanced problem-solving skills will be needed not only to produce these solutions, but also for assessing the risks and rewards of new technologies and its effects. Yeah. So mainly that, and then also when we go into the universities, they always teach us about even though I'm in mechanical engineering, I have mods on civil engineering and electrical engineering, which I think are very important, because having a base on those subjects gives you a command of what you are doing, and it won't leave you clueless when you're out of your comfort zone. And moreover, in these current times, I think we should be highly dynamic and flexible, and have the analytical skills required to face any obstacle head on and produce solutions swiftly. We have to stand over this thing before it engulfs us as a whole. Yeah, so that's what I think the future holds for us. And additionally, to add on to Christopher Sir's thing about gratitude and all, I mean, I understand his views and statements, and I'm extremely grateful for the university being able to provide us with such a good base and foundation for to build on that. And yeah, it's up to us. It's up to us if we have the drive and the passion to continue, go outside and have research about other stuff. And yeah, take up other courses which can, which we can use to upskill ourselves. So yeah, that's about it. So,
Thank you, Vignesh. I think one aspect that is coming out from Vignesh too is like the uh, the mm, the recognition by the youngsters that the core skills like problem solving or engineering ability of like the economic feasibility and things like that, and the refreshing new perspectives like sustainability and security. That's an interesting one because almost everywhere things are being dealt in a by information technology, and that aspect of security we need to figure quickly and clearly, unless we are in for a whole lot of trouble. Things like that. I'll come back to you guys later on this. Now I would like to come to Renil. Renil has done about a decade of been in the industry for about a decade now. So you kind of will be a nice and interesting bridge here between the elder generation and the youngsters here. In your experience, like last 10 years, how have you seen the play of new skills coming into industry, and what were the skills that from the educational stream that helped you, and what were the reskilling that you had to do at the job? See, the thing is, what you would share here would be interesting perspectives for both the institutions as well as the finishing schools, which are looking at creating more industry-ready youngsters, right? And it will be useful for youngsters who are listening in also.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thanks for the introduction. So, is it audible? Okay. So, I've been in the industry for close to 13 years now, and professionally, I am a mechanical engineer. I graduated in 2007, and my focus was more into production and manufacturing side of it. But from my campus, I entered a company where we are doing avionics. So it was into coding. So it was very new for us because I had studied a lot of concepts of mechanical engineering, design, how to start from concept and go into manufacturing and produce a part and things like that. But then I started working in an avionics segment where you're working on aerospace domain, but interacting more with electronics and electrical components there. So a kind of what helps you the most is for the youth part of it. I'm lucky. I've been interacting with people who are from the older generation. I wouldn't call them older generation, but they are the experienced ones who are more practical oriented. And then the new generation that we see right now. Right now, I'm working at a mid-level management where we recruit a lot of youngsters into the teams. And the difference that we see is earlier we used to focus a lot on applications or applying our thoughts, engineering thoughts, into practical scenarios. Very simple example was we have studied interferometry or even just effects of gravity when you are at sea level and when you go at a mountain or something. So you know all of these concepts, but you really don't understand how can you apply these concepts in real world. So some of these questions are what we ask in general, interviews, for example. We always focus in academy. Right now, what we are doing is we are focusing a lot on theoretical concepts, but not moving more into practical segments. But I think there are some institutions, a lot of center of excellences which are coming up, which is focusing on practical applications part of it. And I'm sure I have interacted with NTTF a lot, not with Mr. Christopher sir, but Dr. Ramni, I was in touch with. I was actually surprised when I actually had a visit to him, where he showed me a list of topics which were practical classes for a 1 year upskilling yourself. So what this change brings in is you're already equipped with theoretical aspects of engineering from your college. But then what you should really focus on when you're studying is, for all engineering students out there, you should always focus on the applications part of it. And there was also mention about IoT, robotic process automations. And these are things that would stay at least for the next decades or something. And we are also talking about predictive maintenance, wherein we are talking about running a lot of equipments and finding out which machine can fail even before it can fail actually. So you're predicting those aspects. So in engineering, theoretically, if you go by it, like for example, Vignesh, you spoke about some of the skills. You wouldn't focus on these aspects. You would get these, get to know all of these when you actually start thinking of applications. And I think a lot of information is already available in the internet. You can also get in touch with a lot of companies who do outbound programs, and even some of the simplest of skills, which is Mr. Christopher mentioned about it, the dimensioning part of it. GD&T, geometrical dimensioning and tolerancing, is the basics for any engineer. And if it's an electrical or electronic, signal processing is like very basics. And you can actually relate a lot of, engineering streams, and not try to focus on it as separate. For very simple examples could be like flow. When you think of water flowing in a pipe, the whole resistance part of it can be equated to an electrical problem. So you have a resistor there, and you have resistance from flow in your mechanical designs as well. So these are all interrelated. So what I would urge the young students is always try to think of applications, and whatever you study, the concepts that you study, think of how you can apply it and what real world is using and where it is heading into. And also focus on all the new concepts that are emerging, like the digital transformation that was mentioned. Now, this is huge. This is like really huge domain where people are talking about digital twins. Even before manufacturing a part, you can experience this. I'm very sure a lot of youngsters would have already watched Iron Man, and you would have seen the designs that even before he's producing it, he's actually designing it and he's visualizing, he's trying to wear it. These are augmented reality or virtual reality that you would call. These are not very hi-fi rocket sciences. These are simple concepts, and all are designed to make your thinking much more three-dimensional and much more informative. And these are all designed to bring in additional inputs on what you can actually achieve and what is the output. And finally, like there was a mention, everything goes about selling and sales, where you head and things like that. But when you really focus on the concepts and you work on the applications part of it, and you know what products can make a change, and you aim to go into those areas, all of these will follow. So please focus on the basics, and this is very important for everyone, any engineer, for example. So that's very short input from my side.
Thank you, Renil. Wonderful thoughts from you. What I caught most, this one is the application of technology for improved outcome. You touched upon it very nicely. Being in the industry for long and successful periods, the importance of outcome and the importance of outcome is something that I would like to hear from Ashok. How do we need people to be prepared for thinking outcome rather than stay at concept only? You also pointed to, I read it as modeling, right, Renil? That is like how you can model behavior using certain methods, maybe digital methods and things like that. I would also like Ashok to share if, like, in your industry, how much of the modeling aspects you're seeing on day-to-day work. But to touch upon the outcome part of it, and like what kind of preparedness would you like to have? I'm coming to you. I know I lost a bit of what you said in the beginning, but I'm coming to you on your point about certain gaps with which people are entering industry now.
To begin with, in terms of our heat treatment activity, we are pretty fortunate. The modeling is pretty easy because you get a customer component, and with the different, you have different material where you want it heat treated. So they give you the final heat treated parameter in terms of the case depth or the hardness, and depending on the application. So the advantage is as we build our furnace, we've modeled it in the style of what the Japanese have done there, where the equipment's being built, we have an installation in our facility. So doing an R&D is very, very easy. So when a customer component comes, you take out trial on the furnaces and make sure that you refine the process in terms of the flow of various gases and fluids into it to make sure that you get the results which the customer specifies. And then typically in heat treatment, what we do, the furnace is normally approved by a customer. So after several, it's like part approval process that happens here. So that's one way of modeling that we do in terms of the heat treatment. But in terms of furnace building, see, we've been now in this line for too long a time, and the principle that we adopt is anything that's bought or used is normally used in the in-house facility as a trial. And unless and until this is proven in the in-house that the part being used is reliable and fail-safe completely, we do not use it onto the equipment that is being built and given to a customer. Fundamentally, we do not want any equipment to fail at the customer's end. That is one very important culture that's developed here. Now, added to it, what we have done is we've enhanced the equipments being supplied to big customers. I'm not sure if I can name them, but what we've done is we've kind of integrated with Robo. And we have automated system for picking and placing, and you have equipment which run continuously. So it's like a continuous gas carburizing furnace. So you have equipments which are built on those designs as well. So these are the kind of changes that's going to happen in the near future. And people are, like Mr. Christopher indicated, that IoT and automation is definitely going to be an in thing in the coming future. That includes even automated scanning of your parts so that you know everything is crack free, and you know all those kind of requirements are there. Anyway, we've also gone one step of preparing IoT for the furnaces. Like how Mr. Krishna was saying that you're going to have more efficient system where you can't tell a story that something broke down for some reason, because you're going to have information coming in wherein it tells you what is the history of this particular part, what is the kind of maintenance you've done, and if you've not followed certain patterns, it's going to send you alarms where you attend to the alarms, close them, and make sure you've taken care. You will get continuous reports, so no one can play the fool. One thing, having mentioned this, I would just like to mention about Vignesh. I found that you are one of the kind of, I think the next gen, probably we would like to see, because the attitude in you and the manner in which you mention is very clear. That's the kind of a change which you need in youngsters, wherein you seem to have an interest to know, and that's paramount. What I just made a note for this meeting. In fact, what I feel is paramount with anyone for that matter is having discipline. Many of them definitely are interested. They would like to do, achieve their career goals, but halfway through in between, what happens is you tend to dilute because of other distractions around. So you need to have tremendous amount of dedication and discipline. Otherwise, you simply cannot succeed. Couple of things is, I've always felt that youngsters have to be very, very observant with what's happening around. And most of the designs, if you actually see, I mean, like how he mentioned, I've traveled quite a lot. I've traveled on work. I've traveled abroad on leisure, almost over 35 countries. And the advantage what I got was getting to observe nature, getting to observe the different kind of things being built abroad and in India. And if typically a college or an engineering college takes people like you as youngsters, and you get an opportunity to go around, if you make it a habit to actually observe, I'm telling you, all of you can come out with great stuff. And today we are talking of China and issues on, you should do beat China. Just simply saying beat China doesn't happen. we need to be better than China. So to be better than China, you need a lot of hard work. It's going to take you not 1 or 2 years. There's easily another 20 years, which means you guys, the current young generation, are the ones to actually make things happen. So I believe that mere proclamation and lip service is not going to render us reach anywhere close to what we talk in terms of we are still very dependent on the world for our resources or for components and parts. But I'm sure young people like you, many of you are simply capable of doing anything this nation wants. And I'm glad that someone like you mentioned about the legacy of environment. But let me tell you, we seniors did not destroy it completely. There are a lot of players into it. So not all of us are actually part of it. The industry is not completely responsible for it. Yes, some bit of responsibility may be taken, but we are all governed by a lot of licenses and regulations that you simply can't flout the norms. So basically, the need for all of you to observe nature and observe anything around will help you actually apply your minds into whatever you learned in engineering in theory. So a mix of both on a continuous basis is very, very important. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. I mean, it's impossible to connect yourself with what's happening and bring out a wonderful design. And the other aspect, what Mr. Krishna mentioned was in terms of designing. I completely agree with you. We have situations where you design things, but you do not look at how practically you can manufacture it. Many reasons. One is whether you're able to build it, whether you're able to get those parts, whether they are standard, whether it's economically feasible for somebody to make it and give it to you. There are several aspects. If all these things are actually packaged and given to people like you, it's easy for you to understand, then bring it to shape. And then I'm sure sky is the limit. I mean, I would like to wind up with that.
Thank you, Ashok. I just I did a time check. We are about 13 minutes, and a few questions are also coming in. There's several very interesting, discussion points are happening here. A point that Christopher mentioned about the need, the merging of roles and the need to understand adjacent roles. I would just want to get a 1.5 minute perspective from Rinil on that. I have a question waiting for Christopher, and then some perspectives today I would like to get from Vignesh. Vignesh, I hope you've taken some mental notes. I might ask you to summarize.
That's a very interesting point which has come up. Merged roles are the in thing. We are expected to do much more than what we are actually working on. For example, most of the technical companies, if it's mechanical, industrial based companies or electrical, you would be handling more than one role. In my own case, I used to be a CFD, an applications engineer, and I used to be handling only the technical part of it and not look at what the end customer is doing with it or anything. I was only solving the problems and handling only the application side and then just be done with it. But then there is another team, a set of team, which is actually customer facing, which could be a sales team or a marketing team, and even the backend support team, which supports that. So there are, if you look at the whole industry, it is mainly a sales, marketing or the pre-sales team, and then you have the technical applications team, and to support all of these you have services and applications team as well in the background. So right now the industry is moving to a phase. Even I am actually in the middle of a transition in my own organization where I am actually taking up a different role where I'll be handling applications now. So my role used to be a technical guy. Then I moved on into marketing, where we do technical consultative marketing and sales. And now I'll be handling applications. So the most important thing for all youngsters is please don't be stuck with the notion of working only on one concept. If your basics are strong, you can actually work across. And the basics, if it is strong, that's the most important thing, that you can do multidisciplinary kind of contribution to the whole thing. And even in some of the organizations that we see, it is all multidisciplinary. Multidisciplinary, wherein the design team is working with the analysis team and the other engineering team, the downstream teams. So it cannot be in silos. Now, the most important aspect is the emerging thing that is coming out is you can't be working in silos. Each team has to be working with the other teams, and the interaction is very important to look at the overall outcomes or to focus at the large picture. So this is a very important topic, I feel. Thanks for bringing this out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Renil. Yeah. So again, time check 10 minutes. So I'll get into the question, probably introduce that question. This is focused on NTTF, the first one. NTTF is by far the most connected premier institute in the country. How has the involvement and connect with from industries been? You're on mute. You're on mute. Christopher, you're on mute.
Yeah. So the way we have industry connectors, I mean, NTTF fortunately had an industry. So from there were a lot of connection with industries, right? So now we are only a training center, but we have already. So from that we have many of us are members in CII.
Just wanted to, in the sense like you had a sort of foundry, you had a
industry,
like
yes.
foundry and things like that, and you were actually catering to the industry, right?
Yes, we were making all the tools and stuff like that. Like I said, in my first job in the NTTF Electronics Center, we made a equipment for Maruti. So that connect has always been there. So now we are connected with the CII and ACMA, TAGMA. We are members of these associations, so we have a constant connect with them. And not only that, the placement happens into industry. So there is a constant interaction with industry. So all our students get placed when they finish. Recently, about 2 weeks ago, since it's COVID time, we are doing online classes, but our third semester students are sitting at home. So Toyota contacted us and they picked up about 25 of our students for a short 3 months internship. So there you go. And then another company has approached us. Now I was a while back seeing about one company is asking some students in Hyderabad. So the industry connect has always been there because like all of you said, we make employable youth. So they want to pick them. And when there is a need, they come to us, so that connection. And then constant training to the industry people happens. Like we have training for people from Rex India, Maruti. So there is a constant Boeing. All these people are in constant touch with us. So we, other than NTTF mainstream core program diploma training, we also have the corporate training and the learn and learn programs where the industry is always in touch with us and we cater to their needs. So that's how the industry needs remain. And of course, you ask anybody, they'll be in some webinar or the other participating and listening to what's happening new. So that's the connect we keep. And many of us are from industries who work in NTTF. I'm a hardcore industry guy from operations and designs and business development, so all of us from industry. So we know what to get connected with and how. So this is kind of happening. It's there in the DNA of NTTF, I must say that. Yeah.
Thank you, Christopher. The aspect of the placements and the connect with the industry brings us to another question. This is about internships, right? So I would pose this question to both Renil and Ashok, right? How does your organizations conduct these internships? How some of the audiences, how can they, what can they learn from you guys to possibly kind of vie for an internship opportunity? The industry readiness is quite well addressed by internship possibilities, so hence it is relevant.
We definitely have accepted people on internship programs, but it's always been a very short time, and not many have actually approached us. What I found is most of them, when they're trying to complete their degree, they come to us to basically intern for that few 10 days or so, just for the sake of the certification. But no one really has actually approached us in any manner that, okay, we would send you about 10 engineers or 20 engineers. They would like to train hands-on and then intern. I mean, I've seen in other areas of profession, people do go in and intern without being paid, and finally you find that they are not bothered about the payment because they are more interested with respect to what they can learn. So that I've not found many really approaching, except for students who have been coming to do part of their project.
So you're saying something more meaningful and lengthy, where people can come and spend more dedicated time. Your
Ideally, that should be the right way of doing it. Yes.
Yeah, your industry is open to that. That is what they want to hear about.
I will have to put it across to my guys so that it would help both the individual as well as the company.
Sure. Renil, you touched upon internships, so you may want to just quickly. We are running out of time. Just have 1 minute this one in terms of how somebody can do internship in Calsys.
Sure. We do offer internship programs, and it's based on the trade or focus that they would have. We have multiple disciplines. It can be medical or vision, industrial metrology, microscopy, or even it could be sales. It could be pre-sales, marketing. So these are various, verticals that we have. And if someone is interested, there are a lot of postings that we do on our career pages where internship programs are listed, and it's across other countries as well. If someone is interested to go outside and explore as well, so it's available on from our company. We do accept this.
Fabulous. Thanks, Renil. Vignesh, you're ready for the summary?
Yeah, sure.
Just before that, just collect your thoughts. I want to go 1 minute to Christopher for one last comments on. At NTTF, do you do any in-house workplace preparation programs? It's kind of reverse of internship. The students, what kind of workplace preparation programs do you do? Again, on mute, please unmute.
Yeah. Before I answer that, I just want to compliment Vignesh quickly. He used this word need versus want. Okay. So I want to tell you this. Those people who understand how to differentiate a need and a want, they can produce some brilliant results. So I think your focus is just right there. So I want to compliment you. That's a very important thing. And in fact, I had in my notes, but I didn't mention that. I didn't want to stretch. Need versus want. Yeah, nice. Very important stuff. Nice. Okay. Just to tell you on that, when students get into the second year, we have programs designed like this. You know, first year they learn all this English and all that. And then the hours that we use for English in second year, we use it for personality development. And then once personality development is over, in the third year, we focus on the employability side of it, right? And in the last bit of a few months, we also give them insights on the entrepreneurship. So that's the way we kind of prepare them and tell, okay, this is what out there in the world. And even we give them insights on how to attend interviews, how to work with people. Right from the day one, when you enter NTTF, we start with what is known as roping program. And there is plenty of personality building and development and communication. And you can see when the kid, when he joins, how he is from a village to when he leaves, is completely transformed. We believe in that butterfly effect. So he's transformed, not just changed person. So this is the focus. Yeah. And he goes out very confident. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Vignesh, for your for the closing comments.
Okay, so I think it was a very informative and inquisitive session, case for me. So I'll just touch upon a few points that the fellow panelists have made. So Christopher sir said about the importance of education being more holistic, you know, along with the basic traditional forms of education. It is also important to develop leadership skills and communication skills, you know, so that as we graduate, we become more of a complete individual. Yeah. Then Renil sir also mentioned that it is important to diversify and not, focus on one particular aspect of engineering. So if you study all these things, you have multiple options which you can enter into. And as he said, the industry is changing, and so adaptability is also very important. So yeah, and Ashok sir said it is very important to be observant, and your analytical skills should be developed as well, so that you can see, not just see and forget about it. You need to think about what is happening, and yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You've done a wonderful job of summarizing. As a moderator, I also should put my words to, it's customary for me to put my words, but so much of content has come in this one. I'm actually learning from that rather than contributing into that. So the digital transformation is, like I mentioned in the beginning of the year, is the kind of disruptive transformative stage, is taking us through this disruptive transformative stage. The potential is immense. Productivity increases. Does it mean jobs go off? There's a lot of debate about jobs going off and things like that. But there is counter debates about, we have figured out in the earlier disruptive times also, we have figured out there are new things, like even in some of the panelists brought out here about how the job descriptions itself is changing. That means that many more jobs are going to get created. Why? Because the leash is still in the hands of the people. People are the ones who are going to adopt the technology and adapt. The principles have not changed. The business principles have not changed. Everybody wants to improve upon their the amount that they produce or the amount that they create, right? And everybody wants to make life better, easier for whole mankind. So it is in our hands, very much in our hands. That message is one thing that, like, I would like to leave the youngsters who are listening in. Think, observe, like I think it was Ashok who mentioned about the observe, stay disciplined, understand the basic principles, and bring all those disruptive skills into play to continue creating that momentum for the industry in an even better way. I think we are sitting on an amazing platform, and all of us together can leverage that platform and take the world to the next level. With that, I would like to close the session. I thank everyone, every one of the panelists for their wonderful participation. I go out of this 1 hour of this one with more value. And again, I put my honest appreciation to Skillablers for having me moderate this. Enjoyed the session. I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. A very heartfelt thanks to all the speakers for gracing your important work and sharing with us your thoughts and opinions today. I also extend my sincere gratitude to Mr. Sanjay Jayakumar for joining us as a moderator for today. Thank you for the wonderful insights shared on this session with the youth. Thank you so much.